Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. So today we're going to do a K1 Visa i-129f walkthrough. So let's get straight to it. So we're on Google right now and we're just going to search for i-129f. You can also find it on the USCIS website, but it's easier to just search for it. The link is right here, so we're going to download that. Instructions are right below, so if you guys do need a little bit more help, the instructions are very clear and they do help give details for each part of the application and how to answer the questions. So if you need to, you can look at that too. So let's open up the link and get started. So this part right here, you guys can skip it. It's for USCIS. We're going to move on to part 1, and this is information about you, the petitioner. So if you do have an alien registration number, you can write that below. We don't have that. I don't have that, so I'm going to skip that. You're going to put, if you have the USCIS online account number, you can include that too. I don't have that as well, but I do have a social security number, so I'm just going to put a generic one. We are filing for the K1 visa application since it's a fiance visa. If you are applying for the spousal visa, then you can select that. Number 5 also pertains to number 4B, so you can skip that if you aren't doing that. But this is a K1 visa application, so we're going to skip these ones. All right, so for this petition, I am using a template. So the information, the name, the addresses, numbers, everything isn't mine, but this is just so you guys can have a reference. So yeah, just follow along, even though it's not my name. It should still be able to help you guys out. So the last name, we're going to put Smith. First name, Jane. Middle name is Anne. If I did have other nicknames or a maiden name, then I would include that below. I don't have that, so I'm going to skip it. I can put NA, so I did type in NA, or I wrote it in black ink, just so those who read through the application, I don't want them to think that I skipped anything, so I put NA on all the parts that did not apply to me. So for the in care of name, I skipped that part. I can skip it, put NA, or I did see some people put their own name, but in my case, I'm going to skip it. So we're going to put in the phone number. Sorry. So we're going to put in the address. If you do live in an apartment, studio, or floor, you can include that, but I don't, so I'm gonna just skip that part. I live in. We're gonna put in the zip code. Since I don't have a province or postal code, I'm gonna skip that, but the country is USA, so I'm gonna include that. Is your current mailing address the same as your physical address? So yes, it is. If it's not, select no and then actually write it in. It's not allowing me to write it in, so I'm going to skip that. But it does ask for the date from the time I lived there to when I left. And I'm going to write that in. So I'll put the date that I moved in, and then since I still currently live there, I'll put present. I'll write present or current. So I'll write that in pen since I can't type that in. But then my previous address, because this is for the last 5 years. So if I did live somewhere else within the last 5 years, I'll include that. So my previous address is, and I'm going to skip this part too since it does not apply to me. We'll put in the city, we'll put in the state, and then the zip code. I'm going to skip province and postal code again, and we're going to include the country, which is obviously USA, and then the time that I lived there. And then, sorry, not time, date, whoops. Okay, so they ask for the employment history, they ask for the history for the last 5 years. So I'm going to put my current employer. I'm going to put in the street address. I'm going to skip this part since it does not apply to me. I'm going to put in Colorado, 81658. Skip these parts. Country, obviously it's USA. Engineer. And then the start date. So I'm going to put in the start date. And then I'll say that I still work there. So I'm going to put present. And then my most recent employer before this one, I'm going to include that as well. And then the street name. I'm going to skip these. I'm going to put the city, the state, the zip code, skip province and postal code, put in the country, and then I'm also going to put my occupation. And then the next thing I'm going to put is my employment start date. And then the end date when I left. Okay, so other information about me. I'll put in my gender, my birth date, and then for the marital status, you should be single. So you mark single. If you're not, if you mark married, you obviously cannot apply for this until you're divorced. You can mark divorced if you are divorced. You just need to include a divorce decree. And if you are widowed, then you have to mark widowed and include a death certificate. So none of those apply to me except single, so I'm going to mark single. And then I'll put where I'm born. So city is Tampa, province will be Florida, or state of birth will be Florida, and then I'll put USA. So we're going to go on to information about parents. So dad's last name, his first name, and then his middle name, and then his birthday, and then we obviously he's a male. I'll put USA, Tampa. Let's say he's born in Tampa as well. USA, and Smith is the mom's USA. The mom's first name, last name, and Lawrence, and 1949, and she's a female, obviously. We put USA and Tampa. So again, this is a template. These are not my actual parents' information. Have you previously been married? So if you have, you select yes, and you put in your previous spouse's information. If not, select no and skip the rest. I put NA for this part just so they wouldn't get, I mean, you don't have to, but just so, you can confirm that, yeah, you've skipped that part. So if you are born in the US, you can select this. If you were naturalized, you can select this part, and then if you've obtained your naturalization, which you should have, then you select yes, and then you put in the information, the certificate number, place of issuance, and the date. And if you haven't select no. If this does not apply to you, skip it. So additional information. Have you filed one of these forms before, the I-129f, for any other beneficiary? So if you have, select yes, and then you fill out this part. If you haven't, select no and move forward. If you do have more than one, I have heard of some people who have filed for foreign fiancés like 3 times, 4 times. And if they have, then they're going to have to write this part and then include more in the additional information in part 8. So we're going to skip to number 48. Do you have any children under the age of 18? So if I did, I will select yes, and I'll put their ages. I don't, so I'm going to skip it and say no. But if you do, make sure you include this. And then we're going to move on to number 50. So provide all U.S. states and foreign countries in which you have resided since your 18th birthday. So in my case, I have not lived in any other states, or I haven't lived in any other states. But for this template, they did put that they have lived in other states. So I'm going to just go ahead and put that just so you guys can see that. So I'm going to say that I lived in Florida, as you guys saw in the birthplace. And I also live in Colorado. So information about your beneficiary. So all of it is, all this part is about your beneficiary. So again, I'm going to put in a name. I'm going to put Mark for the middle name. I'm going to skip this part, a number, because we do not have that. But the U.S. Social Security number, if you do have one, let's say your fiance has been in the U.S., maybe on a work visa or student visa, and they received a social, then you can include that. But he doesn't have one, so I'm going to skip that. I'm going to put in the birthday. I'm going to put in he's a male. Obviously, he is single. Again, if he doesn't, if he is divorced or widowed, he has to provide that information. I'm going to put in his city of birth, country, and his country of citizenship. So I did put in actual information since he is from Nigeria, and it still leaves it ambiguous or vague, which is cool. Let's see. So if he does have other names used, then we can include that. He doesn't, so I'm going to skip that. His mailing address. I'm going to skip the in care of name, but we're going to go to the mailing address. Oops. So I'm going to skip state and zip code since they don't have that, but they do have province and postal code, so I'm going to include that. And then the address history is just like the previous one, so I did skip this part because it's the same as above. So I'm going to put how long he lived there, and I'll put till present. And then I'll also put in his previous one. Just realized for the postal code I put Lagos. I meant to put the number. Oops. Country is Nigeria. And the date I'll put when he lived there before. Oops. Okay, employment history. So I put where he's currently working, the street number, the city, province, postal code, country, Nigeria, occupation, accountant, employment start date, and end date. We'll just say that he's currently there. And then we'll move on to the previous one,